You are tuned in to the Denko Gridiron Show, special Thursday edition. Normally we're live each and every Wednesday throughout the Texas high school football season. Grayson Nolette, joined by John Piper. If you were tuned in to the replay, the podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, man, that's 4 platforms. And then on podcast, really wherever you get your podcast, just search Denko Gridiron. And I know a lot of fans like to listen to the show on their way into work, while they're on the treadmill, maybe while they're on their way to a Friday night game.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. We know it's the first time in Season 4 that we've kind of got a off day here on Thursday. But we appreciate all your support and all your understanding and still being here to join us for some Texas high school football talk as always.
Yeah, we'll get started. Like we like to come on about 5 minutes early just so it gets everybody an alert that knows we're live, and then we start usually right at the top of the hour. I think we're like 11 for 11 on that, Grayson.
I feel like we've done a pretty good job.
I don't think we've
at
ever
staying consistent for the most part.
We may have started at 12:01 once, but hey, while we wait for our live audience to join us, I do want to play great support from Bud Bartley Homes. You can check them out at budbartleyhomes.com. But here's a little message from one of our sponsors. BudBartleyHomes.com is one of the area's finest home builders, locally owned and operated for over 30 years. 3 new neighborhoods to choose from: Sunset Point, a third to half-acre Lakeview lots, only a 3 to 4 minute walk to Lake Grapevine's Twin Coves Marina. Watch the Gaylord Texans summertime fireworks show from your brand new home. Low-maintenance single-story homes in Highland Village from the upper 400s, and 2-acre lots are available in Copper Canyon. BudBartleyHomes.com. They can build on your lot or theirs. Bud Bartley Homes has built homes for many of the area's top realtors and other industry professionals. We are confident the team at Bud Bartley will exceed your expectations. Take it from me, John Piper. They built my home over 15 years ago. The excitement is building at BudBartleyHomes.com. Well, Grayson, I know you're not a homeowner yet. You're a young man. You're getting married soon, though, and you'll I don't know if it's your generation's dream to have your own home, build your own home, but with COVID and everything, there's been a huge demand in customized homes, building out home additions because of people are working from home. People are spending more time at home. Maybe a dual income family having both spouses working, they need an extra office. So you can check out budbartleyhomes.com to find your dream home. Been building in the air for over 30 years. But, hey, let's switch gears, man. Our good friend Marty B at Marty B's place, we both had opportunities to go down there and enjoy their great dining and entertainment.
Yeah, did you go there this past weekend or something like that?
My wife and I had a chance. We just kind of spur of the moment. We went down on Saturday night. And let me flash that up there. And, they got like really 3 venues inside one. They've got the indoor restaurant.
They really do.
Outdoor kind of live music venue. You can get some small plate food, I would call it.
Like tapas, appetizers,
brisket tacos, things like that. And then they have an upstairs area. They had some private suites going. They've built some of these like luxury suites. They're just like, I did a broadcast from there last year. They're like luxury suites.
Yeah,
and you can rent them
floor?
out. Actually, they're at the other end, where the stage is.
Okay.
In the outdoor venue, at the other end of the stage, backing up to Lantana neighborhood, it's a 2-tier private suite, and you can rent those out for like birthdays. I think somebody was having a birthday or private events, upstairs for like your Christmas party. But nobody says it better, and I'll let you talk a little bit about your plans after we hear from Marty B himself. Just a great ambassador to all things here in Denton County. Marty, I've always enjoyed the range of menu items, whether you want to go in there for just an appetizer or a full entree. Talk to us a little bit about the selection there at Marty B's.
Yeah, thank you, John. The menu was uniquely crafted with a couple things in mind, and one thing I'm most proud of is that all of our meats are hormone-free, antibiotic-free, humanely raised, and fed an all-natural diet. So it truly makes a difference in the quality and of the flavor of the food. For example, We're primarily barbecue is what we serve the largest amount of. And so all of our Tex-Mex options have smoked meats that we use to prepare those items. And then we have one of the best hamburgers you'll ever put your mouth around. All of our beef comes from 44 Farms down in Cameron, Texas. We cut our New York strip, our filet, and our ribeye in-house. And then all of the trimmings from that we fresh ground into our hamburger patty. And then we have our buns fresh baked from a bakery down in Houston. Unbelievable burger. And then, of course, the steaks speak for themselves, some of the best steaks you'll ever eat. So our menu is wide in range, but narrow in that it's just super focused on quality. So come out and enjoy salads, steaks, tacos, burgers. We have it all.
Marty, anytime we have friends or family come in from out of town, we always take them to Marty B's place because it's such a great Texas experience, and everybody just loves it. So thank you so much for being part of the Dinko Gridiron Show.
Shout out to Marty B's over there in Bartonville, Texas. You guys can dine in or order online there right now. Check out martybsplace.com.
We had a great experience. Marty came by. He calls it Marty B's place because it's like it's his own kitchen. And he came by the table and greeted my wife and I, and it's just like you're at his house. I had the New York strip, and that's out of 44 Farms in Cameron, Texas. And then my wife had beef fajitas. They were awesome. Then we went out, and there was we weren't planning on it, but there was a band called the Time Machine.
Oh, cool.
And the reason they're called the Time Machine, I think they've been playing there for like 20 years, but they go back in time, and they'll do a couple songs from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, very entertaining. I mean, the place was packed. Had a great time, and I know you got some plans coming up there as well.
Yeah, my fiance and I are having our engagement party up there this Saturday. We've got a bunch of my family and friends coming up. Well, not a bunch. It's a little bit smaller of a thing, but you were just talking about that second story up there. There's also reserved places up there, and that's where we're going to be, is up there on the second floor, and we're going to be right over the stage, actually, John. So we're going to have the live music just right at our fingertips to listen to. And it's kind of going to be right around sunset, so it should be a really gorgeous scene. And like you said, it's like they've got several venues in one. There's going to be a ton of space. We're going to have our own little section. It's going to be a great time. And, John, it's also, I feel like, important to note that our prize winner for this week is courtesy of Marty B's as well. We got a gift card to give away here today.
Yeah, let's go ahead and set this up. Last week, if you were tuning in live, and a lot of folks are tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. We see the comments there, and we try to respond and interact with you live during the show. That's always a fun segment of the show. But last week we said, hey, any listeners tuning in, even on replays, you can put in hashtag Marty B, go out and like their Facebook page, and people do win. We gave away a Suckle Busters gift pack a couple weeks ago. The McClarys won that one, and they posted something on the page. And I don't know if they
social media
they barbecued yet or had a little tailgate, but that's always fun. So I'll announce the winner, but I think you have a gift card.
I got it right here in my hands.
Yeah, Marty B's, a $25 gift card.
It's always a party at Marty B's, John. Don't forget that.
Like
it says
that,
it right there on the gift card. So that way you'll never forget.
Are you a paid spokesperson? That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Hey, we might be.
So let's set this up. Marty B's $25 gift card, man. That can get you a nice entree, a couple beverages, brisket tacos, a couple appetizers. It'll definitely take the sting out of your bill. And let's see if we can set this up.
You got it.
Yeah.
There it is.
All right.
Okay.
That was pretty weak, I'll admit. But the winner is, I need a drum roll.
I know we need to get a drum roll.
Let's do a
sound
drum roll.
effects.
The winner, Bo Peacock. And if you're not live here, I think we can figure out how to get a hold of you. But if somebody...
Shout out, Bo.
If Bo's on here, just posting comments, we'll make sure you get that gift card. But Bo's been a fan of the show, and he was tuned in last week. And
very consistent supporter
very
of the show.
Very interactive, so we appreciate that. And let's check comments before we get into the show. Yeah, Kelly McClary says, thank you for the Suckle Busters. Kelly, let us know. I'm going to smoke a turkey. That's how I got to know Suckle Busters. We usually talk about products and services that we're familiar with, right? We don't just talk about, and this show's not about the big sponsors and all that, but it's about Texas high school football. But I am going to smoke a turkey for Thanksgiving.
Man, you've I guess is the right, you've been on fire with the smoking. Haha.
That's good.
Haha, pun intended.
Thanks,
but
Kelly.
Man, you've been killing it. I know you're probably going to get some social media posts there about it. So I've been always kind of looking forward to those, man, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I need to have you over, bring some food up here to the show. That's what I'll do next. I might cook something this weekend.
I'll bring the missus over, you know.
I might cook something this weekend. That'd be good. Grayson, Nolette. If you're just not tuning in, I'm John Piper. And thank you. Is this like show 11 or 12? I've lost track for the season.
This is episode 12 here today.
Crazy. Episode 12, partly due to Texas 4A started on time, and they're rolling into the playoffs. Hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. This was, I believe, the last week of the regular season for District 4A this week. So, and Argyle is really the only team that we cover in that aspect. So it's been a little bit easier on us. It's not like we've had to switch back and forth between a bunch of teams that, you know, started earlier and started late. The Eagles are really the only team that's kind of got a bit of a jump on everybody else we cover here on the show. And, you know, we'll talk about them later on. I mean, they've just been on their own streak throughout this entire year. They're still undefeated.
One other thing I want to get out of the way for you podcast listeners or YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. This show is pretty much self-supportive, and we do have some new equipment ordered. We want to add some cameras. We always pour right back into the Denko Gridiron show. If you can go to patreon.com, and if you're listening on the podcast, that's patreon.com/Denko, DENCO. For as little as $9, you can support the show. And part of that, 25% of that, we give back to local charities. And it's all about the community. And I'll talk about Mission Moms a little later. We want to get into some Texas high school football, but some things we're doing with Mission Moms as well. Remind me about midway through the show. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, for as little as $9, you can support the show there on Patreon. And like you said, John, that goes reinvested into things back into the community. It gets reinvested into things for the show, and it also gets reinvested into some of the prizes that we like to give away as well. And so any support that you guys can show on there, whether it's, you know, just $9 or anything more, is more than appreciated by us. We always love any support that we can
this
get
reminds me, Mac Fegans is tuning in from Crownover Middle School, or maybe has a player at Crownover. We were talking about before we started the show. I was in the community it was yesterday, and we got to talk about football. And the lady I was talking to, her son plays at Betty Meyer. I said, "Well, hey, what high school will he go to?" He said Denton Ryan High School. And we started talking about, hey, is he going to play football in high school? And says, yeah, he's a running back linebacker. And her name's Misha. I won't give away her last name or anything, but she subscribed and is now a fan of the show, and she'll probably watch the replay. I think she's at work today, but that's what's cool. You know, the middle school kids that want to make an impact on Friday nights, that's what we do. We talk about the impact kids have here in the Denton County community, the 9 area high schools, and that's what makes it special. Seeing a mom like that just lit up, you know, she knows Coach Dave Hennigan. Coach Hennigan's obviously all the high school coaches make an impact on these middle school programs, Grayson, and that's what's pretty cool about Texas high school football, the community involvement.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things that we get to do here on the show is embrace the community that we have here with Denko Gridiron, and, you know, welcoming the comments, welcoming you guys, giving us your opinions on these matchups and these games as well. We just love to engage, and we love to hear what everybody has to say. So I think that's definitely, absolutely a huge positive of what we get to do every week.
Now, one thing we asked Kelly McClary, she says they're going to smoke a brisket during the break, is maybe bring us up a sample on like a Wednesday after the break. I don't know if you're talking about Thanksgiving break, but that might be fun. Little segment. We could taste your brisket on the air.
If you're in the mood, you know, it'd be kind of cool. And hey, I guess. But
I'm on a little fitness program, but Grayson, we'll give him like the majority of the brisket, and
I'll take the majority. That's fine with me.
Well, Grayson, let's get into some Texas high school football. Boy, the matchup we were talking about last week, matchup kind of in the area.
Let's break it down.
The Gyre Wildcats versus the Braswell Bengals. You know, myself along with Rick Threlkill and our team were on the radio call of that one. We were expecting a high-intensity matchup, you know, the start of what will become a rival. You know, it's the first
6A,
game.
Yeah.
You know, Braswell, first time in 6A, won their first playoff game last year. Coach Cody Moore and the Braswell Bengals were playing some really good football. Denton Gyre under first-year head coach Rodney Webb and first-year defensive coordinator Coach Heim really starting to kind of get into their own. And, man, were we stoked about that game. But the final score was a little bit of a surprise.
We were so excited. It was our game of the week matchup, the Guyer Wildcats and the Braswell Bengals, John. Friday night at C.H. Collins. It was even kind of a neutral site because that's where both teams play. So there wasn't even a home field advantage factor that was involved in this matchup. And we were really hoping that it was going to be just a total barn burner type of matchup. But unfortunately, I think it was a result that maybe we could have given Guyer a little bit more credit for, as the Wildcats came out on top in a big way, 49-7, the final score there. Guyer forced 3 turnovers in this matchup, including a pick 6, another one by Deuce Harmon. He is on fire right now in that secondary for Guyer. And they also stifled a potent Braswell offense in almost every facet. It seems like Braswell just wasn't getting it going on the offensive side of the ball the way they usually are. And I don't know. I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how or where I might have gone wrong with this game. And I think I went wrong with not giving Guyer enough credit. I think that the Wildcats are still the best team in Denton, Texas. And, you know, I'm sure Ryan would certainly have something to say about that with their matchup earlier this year. But Guyer is just a crazy solid crew. And I think, like you said, John, Rodney Webb is really starting to make things happen with his coaching staff, and he knows how to work these players a little bit better now. I feel like this could have been a different game if this was maybe the first week of the season, or maybe earlier on in the season. You might have seen Braswell have a little bit more of an edge chemistry-wise. But I think the Wildcats just came out very level-headed and were really great on the defensive side of the ball, especially. Their secondary is on another level right now.
Well, the game got off to a unique start. There were some turnovers. The great quarterback, Tristan McClary, he was right at the plane of the goal line and got a hit. I think Deuce Harmon may have hit him. I may not have that correct, but I think recovered the fumble. Took a vicious blow. And Braswell's getting ready to score first and, draw first blood, which is very important in a game like that. And I think it was like right on the 6-inch line. The ball comes loose. Guyer recovers for a touchback, and that kind of set the tone. And there was a couple turnovers early in the game on both sides that was really kind of an odd first quarter or so. And, every time Braswell was getting some momentum going, something crazy would happen. Braswell had a couple interceptions, though. Eli Stowers, a couple balls were tipped, thrown a little high, and interceptions by Braswell. So, it was an interesting game. But the final score, Braswell scored at the very end when the twos were in there. But Braswell will bounce back. That's a learning experience from the Braswell Bengals, and they'll make some adjustments. But to your point, the Guyer defense, we talk about it a lot. Defense does win championships, and their defense in that new 3-4 was very impressive.
This is the third game now that the Wildcats have had a defensive touchdown, and the second game in a row, I believe that Deuce Harmon's had a pick 6 for that Wildcats secondary. So I totally think that Guyer defense has been on another level in recent weeks, John. And I'll just go back to it and say it again. I don't think we gave Guyer enough credit in this one, and I don't know, maybe the stage was just a bit too big for the Braswell Bengals. And I mean, that's not to discredit them per se, but it's still your first year in 6A, and you're taking on the top dogs in Denton, Texas. It would have been an insane come out if they had actually come out on top in this one. But Guyer sent a statement, and they said that no, not this year. It's your first year in 6A. Like you said, John, it's a learning experience, and you got a lot to learn, and it's that you're not going to climb this hill just yet. The Wildcats are still the Wildcats, still the best team in Denton in 6A. And, I mean, the Braswell will get better from here, I'm sure.
We're excited about that quarterback matchup. Eli Stowers went 11 for 22 for 160 yards. Not a huge production night, but the key for Stowers, he's really starting to run the ball with confidence after that knee injury last year. 9 carries for 79 yards, 2 rushing TDs. That was probably the difference maker. Tristan McClary, 17 to 33, 147 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. But he also had 18 carries for 65 yards.
Yeah, and I think B.J. Phillips at 23 carries for 123 yards on the ground for Guyer also was the man to go to in a lot of tough yardage, short yardage situations, and was really converting a lot of those plays for Denton Guyer in the short yardage game. And I just don't think that Braswell was getting the same type of production out of D. Gafford and Jamarian Sanford that we're used to seeing. Jamarian Sanford was really the only big contributor on the ground for Braswell, 17 carries, 77 yards. Not a bad game, but they've been a very big 1-2 punch this year for the Bengals, and they were slowed down quite a bit in this one, really put a lot of the pressure on Tristan McClary, and he's still a first-year starter. He's a great quarterback, but that's a lot of pressure to have on your shoulders against the Guyer Wildcats. And, yeah, they did what they did, and I think it's absolutely a learning experience for Braswell. Still their first year in 6A. Got to give them that credit.
Folks, if you're just now tuning in, you're probably wondering, hey, it's Thursday. What's the Denko Gridiron show coming on Thursday? Well, hey, just like a good football team, sometimes we make adjustments. An in-game adjustment yesterday, we had some things come up, so we moved the show from Wednesday to Thursday. But normally we're here each and every Wednesday at noon. We plan on being back again Wednesday at noon unless Grayson has something that comes up. But,
appreciate y'all for tuning in today.
We will be at noon. And, hey, another storyline, and we'll wrap up this game. Grayson O'Bara was out for Guyer, one of their go-to receivers.
And was Knox Boyd out as well?
Knox Boyd, their right tackle.
Offensive lineman there.
They had some injuries, and I thought that would really play into the game. But Bryson Riggs stepped up, 2 catches, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. Jace Wilson, converted basketball player, and I think he still plans on playing basketball once football's over, but his big brother is playing basketball at Kansas, and he's got an offer to play football at Kansas, but he goes about 6'4", 215 or 20 pounds, and a big target. He's starting to get more comfortable. Didn't play football last season. Cam Smith for Braswell, man, had another big night. 8 catches, 76 yards. Deuce Bailey had just the 1 catch for 15 yards.
Guyer is now going to hit the road this coming Friday as they've got a huge matchup against the Allen Eagles. It's going to be a heck of a matchup. I mean, what a way for Guyer to have to come off of this Braswell win. You know, you've got all the momentum that you could ask for going into this probably your biggest game of the regular season outside of that Denton Ryan matchup earlier this year. You're facing the almighty Allen Eagles. This is one of those games where you borderlining on have to play perfect football to beat Allen each and every time you face that team.
Hey, I call him Allen U because it's, like 6,500. It really is. It's like a large college. It's not even a small college campus. 6,500 people.
And I mean, that's
on that
kind of
campus.
And you got to give credit to those kids though, because Allen has a target on their head each and every single year. They are always the team to beat across the state from any school. And I mean, they're on another kind of. They're just taking care of business the way they do in 2020. They're 4-0 right now. They've missed, I think, a game or two due to COVID, so they haven't played as many games as Guyer. But this is absolutely biggest game of the season for the Wildcats here, and I think that the big key in this one is going to be efficiency for Guyer. I know that Eli Stowers has had a lot of games this year where he's had a couple of picks or at least 1 turnover or something to that nature. Eli Stowers has to come out in this game and be efficient because Allen will make Guyer pay for any turnovers or any mistakes that they make. And I think that that's going to be the big key for the Wildcats in this road matchup is how does Eli Stowers play in terms of efficiency? Because if Stowers throws a couple of interceptions, if there's a couple fumbles, key mistakes, you can't convert, a 4th down and 1 or something like that, those are going to be those big plays that will determine this matchup because these are 2 really good schools in Guyer and Allen.
Hey, fans, we got a lot of you that join each and every week, and we greatly appreciate it. If you could, I know you're probably friends with 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, or 10 people that are also Denton County or high school football fans. If you could just hit the share button, whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, like it, share it. Facebook's an easy share. And then on you podcast listeners, it's easy to text it to friends of yours. We really appreciate that. We're just trying to grow this in our 4th season. Hard to believe, Grayson. 4th season. We were just talking before the show started about plans for next season as well. So we do it for you, and we appreciate your shares and your support. Next up for Braswell. Well, hey, that game's getting a ton of media attention. Channel 8 is doing their game of the week there. KNTU Radio.
Yeah, you're talking about Guyer Allen still.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of media attention
Absolutely.
on that one.
I mean, tons of talent on the field in terms of college recruits for both schools as well. And, yeah, it's definitely got ESPN and TV written all over that matchup for sure.
Yeah, I don't think ESPN's coming in town for that one.
Well, Channel 8, absolutely. Yeah, definitely not surprised at all. But Braswell, they've got a little bit easier of a matchup this week. They're going to be at home at C.H. Collins while Guyer hits the road to take on Allen. And Braswell will be taking on the McKinney Lions at home. The Lions currently sit at 3-3, Braswell at 4-3. I think that this is a good week after game for Braswell. It's a lot less dramatic. you know a lot more about McKinney than you probably do about Geyer in terms of how this matchup's going to go down. You know that the Lions aren't as elite of a squad as the Wildcats are. And I think that this should just be a really great opportunity for the Bengals to bounce back, get back on track, and get a little bit above 4-3 right now. They should be able to advance to 5-3 in this one. And you're at home playing at CH Collins for the second week in a row. It's a good matchup for the Bengals. I like them in that one.
I can assure you, I had a chance to visit with Cody Moore and Coach Webb before the game last week. We talked about it on last week's show, just a great mentorship, and now they're both head coaches in the same district. But I can assure you, Coach Cody Moore is going to have the Braswell Bengals ready to go. Sometimes, I'm a longtime Kentucky Wildcat basketball fan. I grew up there, and I never like seeing a team go like 21-0, 22-0. You learn from those defeats, and as good as Kentucky basketball can be, you can't win them all typically.
Yeah, it's the way that things roll sometimes, but I still like this matchup a lot for Braswell this week. I think that they're going to have a big bounce back against the McKinney Lions for sure.
All right. Hey, next up, the Marcus Marauders. We're at Capel. Marcus, man, continues to steamroll. Capel, very good team this year. They win that one 38-24.
Yeah, the Marauders, like you said, John, come out on top 38-24. It wasn't a huge blowout for Marcus this week. They still get the job done, though. To my knowledge, they never really lost control of this game. They led with the first touchdown and all the way through. Garrett Nussmeier, who, due to his recent play, he's now rocketed himself up to number 1 in 6A in completions, completion percentage, and touchdowns. He's also number 3 in yards, as he just continues to be the lifeblood and soul of that Marauders team and offense, to be frank with you. 30 for 44 in this one, 433 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also had 41 yards rushing. J. Michael Sturdivant, his number 1 receiver, had over 185 yards receiving and a touchdown. Dallas Dudley had 77 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Schott had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Connor Vaughn also had a touchdown catch. So 4 different receivers, 4 different touchdown passes for Garrett Nussmeier. It's just, from what I've heard from a couple of colleagues of mine that have actually seen him in person this season and also saw him last year, they say that they're like, I don't know what kind of training he got over the offseason, but they're like, he moves in the pocket and outside the pocket on a completely different level than he did last year.
Yeah,
last year he was a lot more of a pocket. He was a lot more stable. Like, he would just stand in the pocket, step up, make those tough throws. But they say that from my colleagues that, like I said, that have seen him last year and this season, that his ability to avoid pressure, scramble when he needs to, throw on the run, those types of intangibles, they're like, he's so much more mobile. It's no wonder that defenses have a tough time stopping him. Nobody can get a hand on him.
The great players, you're right, Grayson, it's what they do in the offseason will determine how they play during the season. So strength and conditioning, the weight room, the extra reps, the routes. I'm sure he had receivers working with him all summer and all offseason. But the footwork, I don't know. I think he may have gone to the Quarterback Ranch, which is a place in the HEB area. But I'll double-check that. I hate to say anything without verifying from our sources.
I mean, it's not 100% on Nussmeier here. I mean, J. Michael Sturdivant is a highly touted receiver, as well as Dallas Dudley and Tyler Schott. All 3 of those guys have been monsters themselves in the wide receiver core for Marcus. And then the Marauders have slowly gotten things going a little bit more in the run game. Gabe Espinoza just had 30 yards and a touchdown in this one. But having any support from the run game at all, and just the defense having to respect that, just opens everything up for the Marcus offense. So as long as the Marauders can get something going on the running side of things, just to make the defense respected enough to where it opens things up for Nussmeier, it seems like he's just on some type of tear right now. He's averaging 40 yards a pass, and he's got 71% completion percentage on the season. That is insane for a high school quarterback.
Louisville ISD has a kind of a bubble protocol. I've been wanting to go down there and visit practices for both Flower Mound and Marcus, and they just don't allow it due to the bubble thing. So
we can get a little bit more into this later, but District 66A is also having some trouble with COVID right now. Coppell recently shut a bunch of things down. Plano just shut things down, so that means my Louisville game, they were supposed to play Plano this weekend, just got canceled. So Coppell and Plano really dealing with a lot of things right now. So every other school in 66A is also just making sure that everybody's good to go in terms of COVID. But I've already checked things out with Flower Mound and Marcus. Both of those teams are still good to go on Friday. They haven't had any issues.
Next up, Marcus.
Yep,
is
next up
Plano?
for Marcus, they've got Plano West on the road. Plano West is good to go as well. And the Wolves are actually having one of their best seasons in recent memory. They've only won 2 games in the last 2 seasons coming into 2020, and they're now 4-2 to start their year. Plano West having a historic type of season for their program in terms of how they've been playing in recent years. But Marcus, I mean, they're tops in 6-6A right now. Nobody's come close to stopping them in terms of bringing a quality defense to the field that can somehow slow down Garrett Nussmeier. So that's going to continue to be the key for whoever plays Marcus. The first team that can somehow slow down Garrett Nussmeier to some degree and force Marcus to have to go away from him in their offensive game plan in some form or fashion. That's the only way you're going to slow down the Marauders right now. We'll see if Plano West can do it. I doubt it. I'm going to give Marcus the win in this one on Friday night.
Well, the game you had, Louisville Fighting Farmers against the Jags, I had a chance to visit with Coach Brian Basil of the Jaguars earlier this week. But you were on the call, the voice of the Louisville Fighting Farmers,
Yep.
Our very own Grayson Nolette, man.
Yeah, this one at Flower Mound for the second year in a row, and that was due to redistricting in 2020. And wow, I mean, it was just a completely different matchup than it was last year. It was a very dramatic, very close game last year that literally came down to the very last play. Flower Mound won it with 20 seconds on the clock just by 3 points. And this year, the first play of the game, Louisville gets the first drive of the game, and the Boise State commit, Taylon Green, throws a 75-yard touchdown to highly recruited D1 wide receiver Armani Winfield on the first play from scrimmage. And Louisville basically kept their foot on the gas for the rest of the game. The Fighting Farmers came out on top in that one over Flower Mound. 51-21, the final score there. I said it in last week's show, John. I personally, even though I'm on the call for Louisville every week, had no idea how this game was going to go down just because of how different Flower Mound was compared to last year's team and just how, I don't want to say Louisville hasn't been crazy inconsistent, but they haven't been the same team in each and every game. They've had some problems on defense and with penalties as well, but that just wasn't the case for the Fighting Farmers in this matchup. Louisville had their best defensive game of the season. They only had 2 false starts the entire game, so penalties did not eat at them. And Flower Mound honestly
got down
just made some
early.
mistakes.
You know, they dug themselves a hole. I was talking to Coach Basil, and hey, by the way, shout out! It was Coach Basil's birthday last week. He had hit the big 5-0 club and had a lot of neat stuff happening there in the Flower Mound community. So happy birthday, Coach Basil. Nick Evers, 21-31, 232 yards. Nice outing. 1 touchdown, but, they needed more points than that.
I would like to say this. Nick Evers was the best player on the field for Flower Mound in this game. And I think that the problem with the Jaguars offensively is Evers honestly just doesn't have a ton of help around him. Flower Mound's actually got 2 of their top 3 receivers were injured in this matchup, so the Jaguars are a bit hindered at wide receiver right now. And I think that definitely showed. It just Flower Mound just doesn't have full depth at the moment. Nick Evers just doesn't have a ton of talent at his disposal the way that the Louisville offense does. And
Parker Clark went 7 catches, 90 yards.
He had a solid game. Walker Mulkey had a solid game as well, but I think that it just wasn't enough. They weren't as high powered as the Fighting Farmers were. And like I said, Louisville also had their best defensive game of the season. That was an area of Louisville's play that's been really inconsistent this year. So I got to credit the Fighting Farmers for that. They had played a really great defensive game. So I certainly expected this matchup to be a lot closer. Louisville just and head coach Mike Odell of Louisville as well, he really needed to get this monkey off his back because in his 4 years of being the head coach of Louisville, he's never beaten Flower Mound, and this was kind of just the perfect opportunity for him and the Fighting Farmers to kind of send a message in 2020 to the Jaguars. But yeah, I certainly expected it to be a lot closer. I don't think Flower Mound played a bad game. They did make a couple mistakes in special teams. They had 2 straight punts go right over the head of their punter, Bird Auburn. That turned into 15 points for Louisville. So that was a really big swing for the Fighting Farmers as well, and that was kind of all she wrote in this matchup, 51-21, the final score there.
Well, Coach Basil is the consummate innovator, always working, and like we talked earlier with Braswell's loss, Jaguars will bounce back. Even though they go on the road to Plano East. Plano East is 0-6, but they're a good team. Most of their games they've lost just by a score or less.
Yeah, the Panthers will give Flower Mound some competition. Plano East has not just been going out there and getting blown out in every matchup. They're not that kind of team. They have actually they've been starting their senior quarterback, Dylan Hayden, in a majority of their matchups. But Plano East has this quarterback. His name's Harris Boyd. He's a sophomore. This kid can play, and he's been going in typically during the second half in a lot of these Plano East games once they've kind of started to fall behind by a couple of scores. But if the Panthers decide to start that sophomore Harris Boyd in this matchup instead of the senior Hayden, Plano East could give Flower Mound some trouble, because I really like that sophomore quarterback for Plano East. He played against Louisville as well in their matchup, and he's got himself an arm and really looks like he could be the future of that Plano East program. But the Jaguars certainly are the favorites in this one nonetheless. They have more talent on the field, and if they're able to get a couple of those guys back that they lost in their wide receiver core, Nick Evers will have more talent at his disposal, more options to go to, and I think that'll certainly help him out.
Hey, I'm in the giveaway mood, so I just put in comments. Let's do another Suckle Busters giveaway for next week, another tailgate package, great for the holidays. And I just said, hey, put in comments, whatever platform you're on, hashtag Suckle Busters. Go and like their Facebook. They're really big on Instagram, and they got some great pictures, recipes. Go to their Instagram page, like their page, and we'll give away another Suckle Busters tailgate package next week.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. So make sure you guys follow the directions there in the comments to get entered into that contest. And, John, the last thing that I will say about this Flower Mound and Louisville game was that I really was more impressed with Nick Evers than I expected to be. I think that he is a really solid leader for that club. He's also a first-year starter for the Jaguars, and I think that next year he could be a much more impressive product for that Flower Mound program. I liked what I saw out of him, especially as a leader.
Yeah, Coach Basil, Flower Mound's been playing great defensively all year, keeping their opponents to typically, I think, under 20 points. And this week, the defense. Part of it, though, is, like you said, the special teams conversions.
That was really big. Yeah.
So you can't put it all on the defense, but he said they're definitely going to shore up some things on the defensive side this week as well. But,
Louisville just has so much talent on offense. They've got a D1 quarterback, 2 D1 wide receivers. They've got a D1 running back in Damian Martinez. And their offensive line has been one of their best aspects of their entire team this season. So I think that the Fighting Farmers just matched up really well against Flower Mound this year. It's not like the Jaguars played a bad game per se.
Hey, I do want to welcome Margie Campbell. She roots for the Argyle Eagles, and she is on here about each and every week as well, Grayson.
I love having Margie in
if
the
COVID
comments.
would kind of, I don't know if we can, I doubt we'll be able to do this, but it'd be awesome to have a little tailgate party somewhere with all the fans, not on a Friday night because not everybody can make it, but maybe another time. We'll see how that plays out. It might be hard to do it this season with COVID, but we'll work on that, Grayson. What do you think?
I think we should work on it, and make sure you guys drop that hashtag Sucklebusters there in the comments and get entered into that contest.
Next up,
let's drop on down to 5A here.
Ryan
John.
Raiders and the Colony. Man, Ryan, golly, 49-8.
And the star in this one, John, was basically everybody, but for the most part, it was Seth Hennigan. Seth Hennigan had his best statistical game of the season by far for the Ryan Raiders. And, John, he only played in 3 quarters in this one. So take into consideration these stats right here were in just 3 quarters. 10 of 15 for 332 yards and 5 touchdowns. Half of his completions were touchdowns.
Yeah, we've got the graphic up now for the podcast listeners.
That is insane.
And just coming out there with that flag and playing really good on both sides of the ball, as Jason Garrett would say, all 3 phases of the game.
Yeah, and they didn't have to get too much out of Kiori Hicks on the ground. He only had 2 carries on the night. He also had a 45-yard catch, but it was just the Raiders' defense and passing game. Billy Bowman, 2 catches, 122 yards and a touchdown. Jatavian Sanders had 5 catches, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jordan Bailey had 2 catches for 2 touchdowns. And like I said, Seth Hennigan, crazy performance in just 3 quarters. He's now number 3 in 5A in touchdowns, and he's number 5 in yards as well. And Billy Bowman Jr., as I said, he had 122 yards receiving and a touchdown. Man also got himself an 82-yard interception for a touchdown on the defensive side of the ball. Well, Billy Bowman Jr., the Oklahoma commit, has just been looking better and better every game for the Raiders.
Yeah, I was just going to mention OU got another good one. Billy Bowman decommitted from Texas and has committed to the Sooners, just a couple hours up north here in Norman.
Oklahoma is certainly going to be excited to have him. His ability to play on, and basically, as you mentioned, John, all three phases of the game. He can play special teams, he can play defense, he can play offense, and he's just making plays all over the field for Ryan at the moment.
Hey, I feel sorry for we should have it. I don't have it in front of me. Whoever's playing Denton Ryan in 2 weeks, because this next week they have the week off. If they have any injuries at all, any things they want to work on, they get a week off, a bye week, to get even better.
I know the Raiders somehow managed to get the perfect bye week, just dead near the middle of the season, kind of back half of the schedule here, undefeated at the moment in 5A play. It just seems to be the perfect situation here for the Raiders in 2020. And in 2 weeks, John, they're actually going to be taking on Frisco Heritage at home at C.H. Collins. So not only do they get a bye week and only have to take on a Frisco Heritage group that shouldn't prove too much of a challenge for them, but they also get to have that matchup at home at C.H. Collins. It's, Ryan is on fire right now. Yeah, the Coyotes of Frisco Heritage are only 3-4 on the season. They actually barely beat Denton High 29-24 earlier this year, so Ryan should run right over them, continue to stay undefeated and the best team in 5A in 2 weeks.
Speaking of Denton High, they're up next. Denton Broncos, Frisco Lone Star. Man, Denton just continues to struggle, Grayson.
Yeah, and I know I was a bit savage about the Broncos last week, talking about how they have just been, honestly, really bad at quarterback. It's just not been fun to see. They had only completed one pass in 20 attempts in their last 2 games coming into this one against Frisco Lone Star. And you know what? I'll give the Broncos credit. They actually got something going at quarterback in this game. 11 of 17, 70 yards out of the starter in this one, Cole Hager. So, no touchdowns, but no interceptions or anything up to that degree. No 0 for 10 this week. 11 of 17 for 70 yards at quarterback for Den High. At least there was some production there. Unfortunately, the Lone Star Rangers out of Frisco are arguably the best team in Frisco. They came into this game at 2-2, but they always have a really tough schedule, and they just kind of took care of business against Den High, 62-6, the final score in that one. It just was never a game from the get-go. The Rangers were on all night, and I feel bad for the Denton Broncos. They're struggling in these last couple of games, but again, I'll give them credit. They got something going.
It's hard to get that momentum going, and then they're on the road again this week against Frisco Reedy. Frisco Reedy 3-2. They play Friday night. Going to be another tough matchup. Each and every week is going to be a tough battle for Denton, and we're pulling for Billy Miller and the Denton Broncos to find something there in the balance of the season.
And, the Broncos have something there in Coco Brown. He leads all 5A running backs in carries, and he's top 10 in yards as well. So Coco Brown has been a consistent contributor to the Denton High offense. It's just there's not much there outside of Coco Brown. And again, I hope that the Broncos are able to take another step up throwing the ball this week to take some of that pressure off of Coco Brown, because that's what's really spelling trouble for Denton right now, is just being one-dimensional on the offensive side of the ball, as well as taking on some pretty good teams, John.
Hey, I do want to segue now. I mentioned at the top of the show at some point we were going to talk a little bit about Mission Moms, because, Grayson, our show is all about the community involvement. So for you podcast listeners, you can go to missionmoms.org. And they what they do is they're in their 10th year of serving the Denton County community. I've got it up on the Facebook, the YouTube, and the Twitter page. And just a phenomenal charity. When COVID hit, Grayson, they were able to feed for 26 weeks in a row underserved families in the Denton County area that greatly rely on meal programs, breakfast and lunch at the public schools. And now for the holidays, they're going to provide a turkey, but they need help on providing some of the extras that go along with a Thanksgiving dinner, and they're also going to do some things at Christmas. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can help, just message us here at the show, or you can go to missionmoms.org and they're doing a food drive. They need, I think, everything by tomorrow for Thanksgiving, but there'll be a little leeway. And hey, if we can come by, I will personally come by. I have a pickup truck. I will personally come by your house and pick up from your front porch some food items and take those to Mission Moms to help feed a family at Thanksgiving or Christmas. So anything you can do, we're calling this hashtag Beyond the Game, serving and stepping up here in the Denton community. So thank you so much. Anything you can do to help Denton Gridiron and the Mission Moms. And Grayson, let me stop the screen sharing. One thing we were able to do, I mentioned when we had Kathryn Flores on the show that we were going to help support, and the show donated an iPad to a family in need to help with that remote learning and things like that. So hopefully that gift will keep on giving for several years.
Yeah, and I just dropped the link to their website, missionmoms.org, in the in the comments with that hashtag Beyond the Game. So if you guys want to go check them out, just go right there into the comments. There's a direct link that'll take you right to them. They've got a donation link that's in a bright blue box right on the front page of their website. So that's a really quick, easy way to support them, support their movement, and, you know, go beyond the game.
Yeah, there you are. I see it. I just put it up on the screen. And thank you all so much. Now,
it's not always just about the football, you know.
Back
John?
to football.
But now back to the football.
Lake Dallas Falcons versus Denison Yellow Jackets.
Man, I was really kind of hoping that Lake Dallas was going to do something here in this one, John, and they honestly did. This has got to be the best offensive game that Lake Dallas has played since they beat Denton High really early on in the year. The Falcons lost 56-34 against Denison at home, but it was a game that was just a 4-point margin at halftime and then turned into a 42-17 lead by Denison after the third quarter. And that was really, where the Yellow Jackets kind of secured control. But it was a great game in the first half for Lake Dallas. Brendan Sorsby was the starting quarterback in this one. He ends the game 13 of 24, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. He also had 47 yards rushing. And Trevor Morgan had a 20-yard passing touchdown trick play as well for the Falcons. So 3 passing touchdowns on the game for Lake Dallas. The Falcons also got Andre Minifield going again on the ground. Happy to see him back. He actually had 14 carries for 79 yards and a rushing touchdown, and also snagged 2 catches for 75 yards and a receiving touchdown. So Andre Minifield continues to be a really athletic player out there for Lake Dallas, just contributing both on the ground and through the air. Quentin Gray also had 78 yards in a receiving touchdown. Lake Dallas's defense allowing less than 100 yards passing, as well as forcing a fumble.
That was huge. And their production, I mean, 34 points. I think it's their highest output of the season.
This is, by far their best, offensive game of the year. And I think that, you know, there was a little bit of foresight to that because they were coming off of a bye week coming into this matchup, John. So we knew that Michael Young and company had a little bit more time to make some adjustments for his players. But I love that performance out of Brendan Sorsby. It's okay that he threw 1 interception. Over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, good. 13 of 24, that's good completion percentage. He was able to get some rushing yards as well. I like the dual threat ability of Andre Minifield on the ground and through the air. You know, maybe that was what the problem was with the Falcons at the beginning of the season. I'm not sure if they just had an offensive identity, John. I'm not sure if maybe the players knew who they were. And I think that in this game, they really got a bit better of an idea of who they want to be.
Well, things don't get any easier this week. Lake Dallas.
No, they do not. They're going up against one of the best teams.
Lovejoy 6-0. And you know what? Probably should have Michael Young come on and just talk. Maybe we'll get him on next week.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Michael Young.
Michael Young.
It's been fun to follow Lake Dallas. I mean, they're 1-5 on the season. They're about to have to take on an undefeated Lovejoy Leopards team. So, unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to give Lovejoy the favorite in this one. But I'm not saying that just because Lovejoy is 6-0 on paper that Lake Dallas is just going to walk in there and get blown out. Expect maybe even it to be a little bit similar to this Denison game. Expect the first half at the very least to be a little bit closer of a matchup than you'd anticipate, John. I expect the Falcons to carry this kind of momentum that they had in this game offensively. You know, I think Brendan Sorsby is probably your starter going into the next game. You know what you've got in Andre Minifield now. You've got a couple guys like Evan Weinberg and Quentin Gray who were competing in the past game. Just an identity, John. Having an identity, knowing who you are as an offense is huge for the Falcons, and I hope they're able to carry a little bit of that momentum against an undefeated Lovejoy team.
Hey, nice words of wisdom there, Grayson. Grayson bringing it today.
Hey,
I like that.
For anybody who maybe forgets or doesn't know, I know what it's like to be on a not winning high school football team. My high school went winless my junior year.
No.
We only won 2 games my senior year.
Sorry. I did not know that.
It was I know what this is like for these Lake Dallas. For Lake Dallas, Denton, the Denton Broncos this year, Argyle Liberty Christian, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. I mean, they've struggled this year. On paper it's obvious, but I know what it's like to be in that spot. I know what it's like to be there. And when you're having that type of season, you got to find improvements. You got to find silver linings in a 56-34 loss or a 62-6 loss. There's green. There's some green in there. There's some light to see. And for Lake Dallas, I think that's what it is.
Kind of build for the future, learn, kind of see. It really in these times of adversity is when you see who's really poised and can suit up and does not give up. That's the key right there.
You got to love,
right?
You learn who really loves the game. You learn who really wants to play well and who really loves playing football and who's just there because their buddies are there or, what have you. And, I think that's certainly the silver lining for the Lake Dallas Falcons is you found a little bit of an offensive identity here in this matchup against Denison, and I just hope that they're able to carry it a little bit more into their next game.
Well, hey, Grayson, I got to ask, what position did you play in high school?
I was the starting quarterback, what you're talking about.
Big pocket passer.
We'll say that. More like I was just getting hit in the pocket all the time. But I had a great time. My brother, I had the opportunity to play with my brother. My dad was the defensive coordinator. It was just a really great experience. But I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be on a team that's not winning every single game, like the team we're about to talk about, Argyle, for example, or something like that. And, it's just about finding those silver linings because they're there, I promise. What's our office motto here? Constantly seeking improvement. And
that's right.
That can apply to all of these teams,
that's
especially
right.
the ones that aren't having
we
the best
try to
seasons.
shed positivity on everybody that tunes in, listens. That's another reason why we do the show is to kind of impact one player, one coach, one parent at a time.
Head coach Mike Odell of the Louisville Fighting Farmers loves to say this, is that our best game of the season should be our last game.
Nice.
And I think that Lake Dallas is certainly heading in that positive direction right now.
Well, next up, another
a team that we don't really have to worry about this situation for.
The Argyle Eagles. I mean, another unbelievable run. I mean, it just comes with expectations now each and every year. Coach Todd Rogers and the Argyle Eagles, their goal each and every year is to get to a state title game. And this year, more than recent years, man, they look like they're definitely headed in that direction.
They've just been unstoppable this year, John. 10-0, 28-7 win this time around on the road against a 6-3 Paris Wildcats team. So Paris certainly gave Argyle a little bit more to work for in this one than usual, but the Eagles just did what they've done to everybody this year, and that's just come out on top in glorious fashion. C.J. Rogers, #1 quarterback in 4A, and basically every statistic, completions, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, you name it. He's tops in 4A, 15-20 in this game, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Cole Kirkpatrick had 90 yards and 2 of those touchdowns. Cash Walker had 5 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown for him as well.
I thought we had a deal. I'm the only one that can say Cash Walker.
Big money Walker.
I like that, man. Cash, dropping coins. That's
and
good
then
stuff.
The Argyle run game. We didn't see too much of Tito Bice in this one. Braden Baker kind of led the club, 16 carries, 70 yards. But Argyle just, I think that this wasn't as, I guess, much of a runaway as it has been. Paris, like I said, gave them a little bit more. They were able to sustain drives a little bit longer, kill clock more than some of the other teams that the Eagles have played in recent weeks that they've been blowing out by 50 or 60 or something. So 28-7 seems like a little bit lower of a score. But Paris is not a bad team. They're a pretty good team, but still, Argyle's Argyle.
Hey, I think now's the time. Probably remind me as soon as the show's over. I'll reach out to Coach Todd Rogers. It'd be good to have him on next week. They'll be heading into their second round of the playoffs, and a good time to catch back up with Coach Todd Rogers. He was on here early this year, and we'll plan on that. Let's try to have Coach Rogers on the show next week.
Yep.
Go Eagles, that's right.
Yeah, Argyle's actually still got one more regular season game left. They're taking on the North Dallas Bulldogs tonight, actually, John, in a Thursday night matchup, 7:30 kickoff, to my knowledge. And, yeah, it's just one more game in the way of the Eagles of going 11-0
that'll
perfect
be at
in
home.
the regular season.
I think first round in 4A, you get the home I don't know about second round if they get.
Either way, they're going to get home field. They're going to win their district. They're going to be the number one team in 4A, and I don't expect them. You could probably play all your backups in this one, and I would still expect the Eagles to somehow come out on top. They've been that deep, that consistent.
Yeah. Hey, we're aware it starts playoffs tonight. I think Abe Lemons chimed in here. Thanks. Hey, Abe.
Oh, it is a
Thanks
playoff
for tuning
game,
in,
isn't it? Okay.
Let us know if you're a first-time viewer, Abe. We like hearing from you. And go back, if you're just now tuning in, go back and watch the replay. We've got some giveaways we're doing with Suckle Busters. And to wrap up this week's show, we've got Liberty Christian had a bye week. Boy, they're struggling as well, Grayson. And then we'll talk about our Gridiron Players of the Week, which is a great feature segment each and every week.
Yeah, Liberty Christian they did have a bye week this week, and we kind of talked about their upcoming matchup against the Bishop Lynch Friars on Friday, and Bishop Lynch is also winless on the season, so really great opportunity for the Warriors to get their first win of 2020 here. Would really love to see them make it happen.
Yeah, it'd be nice for them to get a victory.
Not too much to talk about. They had a bye week this week, but just wanted to give a little bit more insight on who they're facing this Friday. Best matchup for them this season. Liberty Christians had a really tough go. I'd love for them to at least get one W here in 2020.
Well, Grayson, the next up featured segment is the
fan favorite,
the Gridiron Players of the Week. And
make sure you guys drop in the comments who you guys believe deserved it if you don't agree with my picks. And I would love to hear who y'all really want to give a shout out to. So, and I hope you do like my picks. I feel like I've done a pretty consistent job of spread the love around. Been pointing out some guys who deserve it.
I've never had it once say, nah, I don't think so. But hey, first up, quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. We talked about him earlier. What a performance! And I'll let you take it from there.
Garrett Nussmeier. What else is there to say? Besides the fact that he's now established himself as the number one QB in 6A in completion percentage, and touchdowns. He's also top 3 in yards in 6A. He came out on top in a 38-24 win over the Coppell Cowboys to remain undefeated in this one. 30-40. He went 30 of 44, 433 passing yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, 41 rushing yards as well for Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU commit. But, man, he has just been on a tear in recent weeks, and just because of that, he's now established himself as the number one QB in 6A. And, John, I'll say it again. This dude is completing 71% of his passes in game. And, I mean, there's some guys who struggle doing that in practice against no defenders whatsoever. So the fact that Garrett Nussmeier is doing it against 6A competition is just beyond impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, hats off. Boy, I'd like to go down there to practice, but I don't think they're not allowing that still just yet. But
yeah, and like I said, we said it early in the show, if y'all want to check out Marcus this weekend, they're going to be on the road taking on the Plano West Wolves, who are 4-2. So that could be a pretty interesting matchup Friday night, 7:00.
Hey, next up, I had a chance to watch him up close. Running back B.J. Phillips for
First
the
time
Gar
we're giving
Wildcats.
him a shout out.
Yeah, hey, workhorse. He had to follow in the
Perfect
footsteps
description.
last year of Kadrick Hobbs, the top rusher in 6A across the state of Texas. And, man, he would have been a starter at most programs last year. But, one thing we talked about last week, Grayson, is that that matchup against Braswell, had a couple injuries to the offensive line, but just did a job. 23 carries, 123 yards, and a 49-7 win. B.J. Phillips, and just real strong runner. He goes about 6 foot, 6'1", about 215 pounds, and has some surprising speed as well.
Yeah, I think workhorse is just the perfect description for B.J. Phillips and what he's been to the Denton Geyer offense so far this year. And when you've got a guy like Eli Stowers at quarterback, that you don't have to be Kadrick Hobbs for that Wildcat offense. You just need to go out there and do your job and do what Rodney Webb and company tell you to do. And I feel like that's what B.J. Phillips has done this year. Very unselfish player, just gets his carries, gets as much as he can out of every game. And I think that spelled really well for him. Definitely would have been a starter in any other program last year if it hadn't been for who he was behind. But I'm just glad that he's been, like you said, John, a total workhorse for that Geyer offense this year. Had one of his better performances this week. Very consistent player in that Braswell win.
And last up, we talk about him virtually each and every week, but
first time he's getting the Gridiron Player of the Week honor. It's the Ryan Raider, Billy Bowman Jr. I guess you would probably consider his position athlete because it seems like he plays all over the field in all phases of the game, offense, defense, special teams. At wide receiver this week in their huge win over the Colony, he had just two catches, but they went for 122 yards. One of them was also a touchdown, John. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Billy Bowman Jr. also snagged himself an 82-yard pick six in a 49-8 win over the Colony Cougars to remain undefeated and the best team in 5A. You mentioned it, John. We talk about him almost every show, but this was the first time we really got to give him a shout-out as a Gridiron Player of the Week, and it was very well-deserved.
I think that's one reason he decommitted, because Texas, I think, was talking to him about maybe being on the defensive side. He at the end of the day, wanted to be a receiver. Oklahoma said, hey, come up in this wide-open offense, Lincoln Riley, and you can play receiver, and that's where he ended up. So it'd be fun to watch on Saturdays here in a couple years.
Hey, and we just saw a gentleman, a wide receiver, go from the Oklahoma Sooners to a first-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys. It's CeeDee Lamb, and I'm sure that Billy Bowman is seeing CeeDee and going, man, I want to be the next. I want to be the first Billy Bowman Jr., but if CeeDee Lamb's on the Dallas Cowboys right now, I think that might be the college that I want to go to, and I do not blame Billy Bowman Jr. at all. He had plenty of options for his next college that he wanted to attend, and man, he just continues to prove why he's a D1 recruit. He is a monster on both sides of the field.
Well, fans, we're going to wrap this one up. But again, in closing, you can go to patreon.com/Denko. And I think we even have a package on there where you could be a guest host, I believe. I'll have to double check that. But we got some unique things starting at only $9 to help support the show. And 25% of anything we raise goes back into the local community. And we're just looking to add some technology to the studio and some things, and your support would be greatly appreciated. You can direct message us here at the show if you have any questions.
Make sure you share out today's show as well, whether you are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. Go ahead, text the show to your friends. We're also going to be posting this up, podcast version on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that good stuff as well. So make sure you share the show out with your friends. Let people know that this is where they can hear about their favorite North Texas high school football.
And for Grayson, Nolette, I'm John Piper. We'll be back next Wednesday.
Thanks for listening.
From Fox 4, make sure to tune in to the Denko Gridiron Show.
Man, good show there, Grayson.
Great show. Great show.
And that was tight.